Let's imagine you're gonna pick up a beautiful light on Alibaba. You get your first container shipped into your warehouse and you start selling the product and you think, yeah, great. Then you get the first claims because your light fails. And then the next guy comes and says, hey, you offered warranty. Especially in Europe, you have to offer 2 years warranty. Well,
over the last 10 years, these platforms have come up, like Alibaba and other platforms where you can directly talk to manufacturers.
yes.
Now, have these platforms impacted your business in a negative way, or are you competing with them, or are you working alongside them?
Well, to be very frank, we sometimes use the platforms to buy some products initially in and also understand where we are in order not to get too far off. But most of the challenge that I can see on those platforms is that the information provided is good when you are looking for a commodity product.
Okay.
Something that is very common, or something that where you look for 10 providers of the same product and there you meet a specific spec. But it's not such a good product, not such a good platform when you are looking for making something different, something new, because you want to solve a problem that hasn't been solved in the market. And that's why we say we are complementary. I see that most of the products that you offer on these platforms, they are targeting existing markets. And I have to say, those platforms are good for the consumer because they enable to drive the cost down of everyday's items. However, this cost reduction efforts often also come at a cost, at a hidden cost. Because especially when you target, like in lighting, for instance, you can buy lots of lights on Alibaba, there's plenty of it. But when it comes to lifetime, very difficult to verify.
Yeah, you were talking about how some of these lighting manufacturers keep their product life cycle at 3 years exactly.
Yeah, for the average consumer.
Yeah.
So when you think about it, when you go to a retail store or you go on Amazon or you're on Alibaba or wherever now Temu is getting very popular in some places. Yeah, you can get a lamp, you will get it shipped and you're going to install it on your ceiling. And well, how often do you use your light? Well, typically maybe in an evening, 2-3 hours, 4 hours before you go to bed. Every day. Maybe you're home 250 days a year. So let's say 1,000 hours a year, 3 years, 3,000 hours. And if you're lucky, it will survive. Well, that might be good for your home. Now think about a professional application. If you are in a business, in a workshop, where people are working and you have a light above your workspace, you're going to use that lamp 10 hours a day, every day. And hiring an electrician to install that lamp is not cheap. So it makes a huge difference whether your lamp is dead after 2 years or is dead after 10 years.
Right. And you actually can find those manufacturers that have the 10-year life cycle product.
Well, it's not just about the manufacturer. It's also about the design of the product.
Oh.
Because in the light, and especially now, I think you're very aware, we have LED technology have come into most of the lighting, and it's been a great revolution for the product, for the lighting industry. Because the LED light source is giving you a more efficient light, it can give you a better light, and it can, if you do the design right, it can also be a very long-lasting light. But that conflicts with the seller. I have to say most sellers don't want to sell reliable lamps because they want to sell more lamps.
Right.
So they don't necessarily have the interest on selling a reliable lamp. But when you're a business and you rely on the lamp for your workers to work, and when that lamp fails, your workers turning their thumbs and not having nothing to do, and you lose productivity and you have to address that cost. Maybe your cheap lamp starts to become a very expensive lamp because you have to pay the worker that is not doing anything productive. And when it comes to the LED technology, it usually consists of two major elements when it comes to reliability. One is the LED itself, and everybody will tell you, yeah, my LED has 50,000 hours lifetime. This is true when you read the fine print. And the fine print says the LED has to be at a certain junction temperature. It shouldn't exceed that for too much hours. This is written in the fine print, but of course this is not shown on the Alibaba. And the second component that is very critical in any LED lamp is the power supply, the driver. Because an LED is a DC light source and our power plugs providing an AC. The DC that the LED needs is about typically 3 volt, 2.8 to 3 volt. And the power we get from our power plugs in the US is 110 and in Europe is 230 volts. We need a converter from that to be able to drive the LED. That's the driver. And the best LED doesn't help you if your driver dies. So there's also about the lifetime of your driver. And just to get an example for what that means is when you look at your typical PC, it's also got a power supply inside. Well, how long does your power supply usually last? And a lot of electronic items that have power, they may last. But again, also depends on the temperature. So since we don't have fans in lamps, you have to really carefully design the thermal environment of your driver in order not to thermally overload the components inside. Otherwise, your driver is dead. And when your driver is dead, your LED is off. So the result is the same.
Okay, so this is why you employ full-time engineers on your team.
Yeah,
because you have to do testing and design. A bit of the design phase goes through you before the manufacturing.
Well, yeah, I have a passion of lighting because I've been in the lighting industry for 30 years. Started with projection lighting, and so we're doing a lot of special lighting applications because the challenge is that the average consumer is usually not willing to pay for it. But the user that uses commercial or professional lighting, they care.
They know the benefits of going the extra mile.
Yes, they know. Yeah, and I believe that from Celinius' point of view, we would like to offer good, reliable lamps for the application people use, because it's also good for the environment.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing worse to create all this electronic garbage that is going into the bin, and it costs money to exchange. It's bad for the environment, and then it causes additional hidden costs for the user. So I'm always very honest with people to say, like, know what you're getting into.
Yeah.
And most people don't. And the people on Alibaba usually, they want to get the next deal. And when the goods shipped out, they're happy.
Yeah.
And try to get warranty claim in China, good luck.
Yeah. Okay, so for a certain target market, like what you just said, the entrepreneurs looking to do something innovative, they're not going to get very far with Alibaba. It sounds like they might find something, but then what do you think are the biggest limitations with going directly to the platforms?
Well, I would say it's great for the single entrepreneur that wants to start something and try something, and usually it's a recipe for disaster.
I've thought about that too. I thought about, hey, look, I can go directly in Alibaba, buy something, not fidget spinners, but maybe something a little bit more innovative, and get rich.
Okay, good, great. Let's imagine we play that game with the lighting maker.
Yeah.
You're going to pick up a beautiful light on Alibaba.
Sure.
You get your first container shipped into your warehouse, into the US. You start making a beautiful marketing campaign for that light. You go out on the big platforms like Amazon and so on, and you start selling the product. And you think, yeah, great, it's going cool. Then you get the first claims because your light fails or it does go off. Then your platform will start holding back the payment from you. But you have paid the manufacturer. You paid your marketing agent. You paid your advertisement. And now you see your rewards going down. And then you're sitting on a huge piece of dead stock.
Oh my God.
And then the next guy comes and says, hey, you offered warranty. Especially in Europe, you have to offer 2 years warranty.
Have to.
Have to. It's required by law. And then you start getting the first legal claim. Well, and then you have to make a decision. Stay in business or go out of business.
How do you help entrepreneur clients avoid this nightmare scenario you just described?
Well, we usually do a risk assessment, and we do it with them together. And besides the business risk, you also have to look at the technical risk that people face. And when it comes to Europe, there is another whole layer of it, which is related to the, the CE sign that you see on most of the products. There's a whole bunch of regulations that are behind that. And the European Union, especially in the past 2 years, has implemented a number of legislation which is targeting the sustainability of your products. So one of the elements is a kind of right to repair regulation. So meaning you need to offer spare parts and you need to offer repair manuals for an extended period of time.
For free?
Not for free, but you have to have it in your portfolio. Right. You cannot not offer it.
Okay.
And the next one is the compliance to the chemical restrictions. There's a kind of ROHS restriction on hazardous substances. So basically the most known story is that when you have like a plastic toy, like that you can find on night markets here in Taiwan, or there are a lot of chemicals which are not very healthy for small toddlers to lick on. So there are a lot of restrictions on specific substances that you cannot use on your product, and where you use it and how likely it is to go into the food chain or into the body of a user. That's another nightmare to manage, because when you're dealing with a manufacturer, you need to go all the way down to the raw material levels, and also have to run a risk assessment on that. And then you have to do a reasonable due diligence on making sure that you're not violating those regulations. And when it comes to lighting or electrical gear, also the European Union requires a certain level of energy efficiency, and that also needs to be addressed. And when you do an electrical product, you also have an EMC compliance issue. So you need to address the electromagnetic immunity. Basically, this means you have to prevent interference with radio and television and mobile signals. And also you have to make sure that you are not being interfered easily by other electromagnetic emissions. That's also not simple to manage, but that requires a certain level of engineering, a lot of care. That's why there was a big joke. What does CE stand for? Of course, it means conformity European, conform to European standard. And people were joking, okay, on Alibaba you get a lot of CE products, which stands for China export. But it doesn't really necessarily meet the requirements. However, if you're an entrepreneur in the West, and you are the importer of the product, you are liable for the compliance to this regulation. And there are extreme cases where people have been taken to court and actually have gone to jail because they introduced dangerous products into the market and did not adequately address them. And I think from December this year, the importer's name has to be on the product package.
Wow.
So meaning you are exposed.
Right.
You want to be clear about that.
Yeah.